Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to welcome all of you to this session. I'm Michael Jace. I'm the founder and CEO of Launchmetrics. The theme of today's session is very exciting. It's focused on the Fintech revolution. We're going to talk about the evolution of Fintech within the fashion industry and how it really shapes the mindset of modern consumer, as well as the future of purchasing in the digital sphere. I'd like to welcome our guest, Francesco Passone, who is the head of Southern Europe and country manager for Klarna in Italy. Welcome, Francesco, and we are super happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me with you today, Michael.
So let's start with how Fintech has become a real big part of the fashion, luxury, and beauty industry. What are the changes that you've been observing, and why has it become such a hot topic recently?
It's a great question. So in essence, and to really keep it simple, the technology nowadays is so easy to access, and it really has the power to basically revolutionize a quite boring sector like the financial services, right? So we can really talk about having the possibility to do disruption and to have an impact in the everyday life of the people. Now, if we think about for a second on what could be in for the consumers, well, for sure, a more transparent or fair way to manage their finances, that has an impact in your life. And if we look maybe at the merchants, so the ones that are selling the goods, the fashion retailers and so on, it's a toolkit of different solutions that can give them the power to enrich the consumer experience, both in the physical stores and online. And those two things together, of course, they can be very, very powerful.
Yes, it's true. And there are some people who say that there have been more changes in the last 6 months in the fashion, luxury, and beauty industry than in the last decade. How do you see it happening? What changes have you seen in the industry over the years, and how did it accelerate your development?
I think, look, it's a very fair reflection, right? So I've been in this industry for 10 years, and I can really tell you that it is a spiral that is keeping on accelerating, right? So basically, the speed of changes is really going very, very fast. And I mean, ultimately, at the core of it is a growing digitalization that we are exposing, to this industry. But it's also, I think, a digitalization that cannot forget the human touch. So for sure, we can combine different elements. Some of them are technological, some of them are more human, with the end goal of really giving that end-to-end consumer journey. And the goal of this industry right now is more than ever to make it unique and personal for the end consumers. And to get there, you have a combination of high-tech aspects, like, geolocalization for the stores, but then also some low-tech elements, like the QR codes, for example. And this combined basically with human interaction, like good customer service and great logistics, is really, the key ingredients and a very difficult mix to balance for retailers nowadays in this world.
And when you think about this buying process as a whole, how did the change that you mentioned impact this buying process? What is the big difference? What is where does the disruption stand there?
I mean, there are basically several angles to it, right? An interesting one is for sure the fact that many years we've been talking about, omni-channel and different channels playing a role. I mean, nowadays, what we really see is that there is really no difference, and the boundaries between one channel and the other are really, fading away. You may place an order in the physical store that then gets fulfilled with an online ecosystem, or vice versa. You can connect maybe an online session to your store associates, right? And so this basically fading of channels also brought a growing sophistication for the consumers. So consumers are more aware, and they are researching excellence. And therefore, for the brands, especially in this industry, creating long-term usage and stickiness to the brand, to your store or something, it's more difficult than ever, because it's not anymore a simple thing that you could do by, basically hitting a checklist. It becomes a constant challenge.
And if we take the other perspective, saying the consumer that you just mentioned, How, in your opinion, has the buy now, pay later type of strategies influenced the luxury market? Like, especially if we talk about like the Gen Z or the millennials, what type of impact you can already see, or you think that will happen in the next months or years? How did it shape the industry?
Yeah, I think at the very core of it, just to keep it very, very simple, what we've been observing in the last few years is a growing disaffection of Generation Z and millennials towards the traditional banking environment, which is an environment which is quite old school, and it has basically grown up and made this business on charging interest to the consumers. And I mean, two key statistics of this, which I think are really interesting, 50% of the millennials in the United States, they don't have a credit card. And 71%, always at the millennial, they would prefer to go to the dentist versus to go to their bank. Now, those are fun facts, but I mean, they really basically are a symptom of something bigger, right? So basically, bringing flexible payment solutions like buy now, pay later, allow the consumers to get the benefit of the credit that traditionally you would pay for because you pay an interest, you pay your fee for the credit card, but basically do it with the tools that you have every day, like your debit card or your prepaid card, and ideally at no cost. Now, why this population is so important, especially in the luxury? Because within 2025, 50% of the overall volume for luxury brands, especially online, are going to be made by these two generations. So they're becoming every year more and more relevant. It's funny because when I talk with many brands in Italy, they talk about the new generations. And I say, well, guys, no, those are the current generations already. And you should start thinking at the next one that is coming after.
Yeah, absolutely. They are like the current generation. So if we take now their perspective, it's all about financial independence, right? And how do you help them somehow achieving that financial independence, and what is the role of Klarna into it?
Yeah, so you said something very true, right? Because of this growing disaffection that I was referring before, the new generation are particularly, focused on financial independence, financial well-being, and actually understand how they spend their money. And I mean, ultimately, they want to be in control of what they do, and they want to understand what's going on. So we as a company started 17 years ago in the business of, if you want, payment methods and deferred payment. Today we call buy now, pay later. But I mean, by now, we offer a set of services to consumer that goes way beyond that. So right now, we are really able to offer them an ecosystem of services that is giving them a more sustainable way to shop, to pay, but also to bank. And to shop, for example, we have our app and allows consumers to discover products. So they are not paying or they're not buying it, but they're just shopping. Paying is, of course, deciding the most convenient way for you to pay. It may be in installments, it may be in 30 days, but it may also be that you want to pay everything immediately simply because you don't want to think about that in the future. And I mean, banking is also in some markets, like for example, Sweden, Germany, UK, we even have an integrated banking offer in our app that basically gives you the full control of your finances and basically make it fair for you. So we basically touch, these three areas: the shopping, the paying, and the banking, and we are able to provide a full ecosystem to the consumers. So
this is super clear for the consumer. Now, what are the biggest changes that the brands are facing, and how do you help them? How can you be part of the solution somehow for them? Yeah, so what I've tried to basically tell you so far, that the world is becoming a roller coaster, and this roller coaster is not slowing down, but is gaining speed every year, right? Because there is a change which is continuous, and especially these younger generations, because they are more sophisticated in what they want, but they are also a bit more volatile in their interest and their preference. So basically, the key basically challenge that retailers have nowadays is like, how can I create stickiness in the long term? How can I create long-term consumer preference? And that basically means, how can I engage with brands in different ways? And in that sense, we help them with a set of tools that goes beyond payment methods, but we also have, solution to do marketing. We have solution to drive affiliate traffic. We have solution to connect the physical stores with their online, and therefore try to create these really cool consumer journeys on their premises. And the second component is that because, the boundaries are basically non-existent,
Of course, every company that is playing in the luxury fashion and beauty segments, they need to be global, and they therefore want and need to rely to players that can take them globally as well. So, you know, being successful in one country is not enough, or being successful in a region is not enough. So we have the capability to take these brands and these retailers to more than 30 countries all over the world. So these two things combined, I mean, it makes us a very good partner for these retailers in this industry.
Okay, so basically, if I understand correctly, it means that for the present, it's about keeping the momentum and the stickiness in a volatile world, right? But so then what is the future? What is the future of purchasing in your opinion?
Wow, I would need, I don't know, some magic ball
Then
or
how
something
well?
to make a guess there. But I mean, what I can for sure see is that we will continue, you know, with this trend of basically removing the barriers between channels. I mean, that's already ongoing. It's more mature in certain segments, less mature in others, but that I think it is really, really important. And we will reinvent, you know, the value of the physical stores. Maybe not necessarily where is a place just that you go to buy something, but maybe it's a place where you can, as a retailer, give additional services to something that you have purchased online. And also we will value more and more, you know, the 360-degree service. So not only the purchasing part of it, but also what's happening afterwards. You know, that I can talk with someone on the phone within a minute if I need an assistant with the product that I bought, or it can very easily return a goods or something. So it is really an integrated experience that for me goes beyond only purchasing, but it really scales with what's happening before, what's happening during the purchase, and what's happening even after the purchase is done.
Okay, so in this context where basically purchasing is integrated in a full value chain and in a kind of complex ecosystem, well, it's a question of having the right partners, right? So who are like the key partner that really help you to crack the fashion industry? And do you think that fashion partnership will play an important role for Klarna?
So let me take you down a bit memory lane, right? So we started at Klarna in 2005. Mm-hmm. And we actually started with a very simple concept, which was bringing something that the consumers were already doing offline. Back then it was, you know, mail and catalogs, and making it fully digitally, then bring it online, which is I receive the goods and then I have 14 days to pay after I receive. So that, you know, I can check up the garments that I got. Maybe I got 2 sizes because I wasn't sure, I can send one back. And therefore I have the flexibility to basically try before you buy. That's really what Klarna was at the very beginning. Then, of course, 17 years fast forward, it's basically everything that I told you before, right? We have sophisticated a lot our offering, and we moved way along from that initial concept. But I mean, this very simple initial concept, you understand it correlates very well with the fashion industry, right? Because it's really made for fashion. So, and that kind of spans from, you know, companies like that work in the fast fashion industry, like H&M, Zara, Shein, and whatever. But it also brings up to the most luxurious brands like Ferragamo, Bulgari, and others. So we are able to really cover the needs of the fashion industry from any ticket size. And of course, we moved also to many other categories as well. We pretty much cover anything that is connected to retail. Now, if I need to name maybe a couple of partnerships that, you know, really help us out cracking the industry, I would maybe choose the one from H&M. So we work with them in all countries. We launched a few countries together. So we started in Australia pretty much together, and we brought our solutions both in the physical stores as well as online in a fully integrated way. So that for us, you know, it's a really unique partnership that has helped us out growing a lot in this industry.
Very impressive. Francesco, there is one word that is like the hot word at the moment, and that we didn't discuss. Any idea what it is about?
Well, I mean, everybody's talking about Metaverse, isn't it? It's the cool thing at the moment. And I mean, it's a word of a lot of words are said. You know, it's going to be very, very interesting to basically follow through and see what's happening. And I mean, I see players like ourselves, but also others, to be part of this journey with some of these retailers, and see how we can help them out also to extend their services in this completely digital world. So it's going to be a very fun, basically, thing to watch and observe and try to contribute as much as possible. And I mean, I feel that players like Klarna, with our experience and with our technology, and the fact that we are digitally native at 100% in everything we do, we can really play a role on how this thing is going to be shaped in the future.
Okay, and then more globally, like today we talk about like fintech with hot topics that are like buy now, pay later. I mean, how do you see more generally fintech influencing the fashion, luxury, and beauty industry within like the next 2-5 years? What's your view on that?
I mean, I really think that there is the genuine opportunity to enrich and to evolve the consumer experience, like in a very substantial way. Companies like Klarna, but I mean, we are not the only one, really are able to bring cutting-edge technology in a very short period of time with very fast iteration. And I want to really stress these three things together, right? Because the speed of change and the speed in which you can evolve your services is really, really key. And it's going to be more and more key in the future. Really accessible to these brands, to both the consumers and the retailer, and really try to create this unique ecosystem. So I don't have a silver bullet, on what the journey is going to be, on exactly how it's going to play out. But I see players that are very strong with the technology and they can develop and bring it to market very, very fast. And I see brands that are receptive to it, and I see consumers that they need more and more. And this basically triangle, I think, is gonna basically shape the consumer journeys of the future in a very, very interesting way.
Okay, thank you for this very interesting answers, Francesco. We have a few questions that were submitted from our attendees on social media. Do you mind if I take them?
Of course, let's do it.
So the first question is about like the difference between fashion, luxury, and beauty. Do you see any different purchasing habits or differences between like these industries? What's your view on that?
Well, I mean, from our side, we do not really see any huge difference. I mean, there is a lot of affinity in the behavior of the people. But of course, when we talk about fashion, there is a huge, we're talking about everything at the same time, right? So we are moving from fast fashion with companies like H&M, Zara, and Shein up to the most luxurious brands. Now, then, what we see, though, is the behavior on the consumers on the website is indeed a bit different. So let me give you a couple of very concrete examples. When I maybe shop on H&M or on Zara, what I do, because I have the possibility, to pay my order in a flexible way, is that maybe I add some accessories, or I buy a second garment. So I basically tend to increase my average order value, simply because, I can afford a bit more, I'm not stressed about it, and therefore I tend to do a bigger purchase. So that is for sure a very clear impact for those retailers. The more I move into the high-end luxury brands, I mean, I am not going to buy 2 items at Bulgari just because I can pay them in installments. I'm still going to buy one, so I don't really see any impact on the cart size. But these brands really see an opening indeed towards this new generation. So for them, it becomes a tool to open up their gates to a population that maybe were not looking at this item, or maybe these items were just an aspirational purchase, but now they can really become concrete. So the effect is slightly different, and is driven by how the brand is actually positioned and the ticket size. And
like we've been mentioning the industry, but probably maybe between regions, any differences in terms of how the consumers react or purchase?
Well, I mean, we see, for example, markets that are, very aware of these flexible payment options. I mean, I'm thinking of Australia, maybe the most evolved market all over the world. And you have the US and the UK, right? So that would be one cluster, if you want, on very early adopters of these kind of solutions. Then you have many European markets. And I mean, if I want to basically simplify it a bit, I always say all of the markets above the Alps, where, you know, so I'm talking about Germany, Switzerland, Austria, Benelux, but then also the Nordics, where, you know, really the concept of try before you buy is in the DNA of the consumers, because they've been used for decades to that basically shopping experience. Then when we come to other markets like Italy, France, Spain, I mean, this concept is still quite new. It's a concept that basically got traction in the last few years. So we don't see the same level of adoption that we see in the other markets, but we see a genuine interest of both consumer and merchant. So it's going to be very, very interesting to watch closely these three markets in the next year or so to see, you know, how fast are they catching up with the UK or Germany, for example.
Thank you. It's super clear. A second question is really like about what is your advice on how to approach the modern consumer? We said that it's been changing a lot. What would you recommend to a brand?
Well, it's basically two things, and I mean, it's very easy to say that, but I mean, then of course it's more difficult to put in practice. So the first thing is more on the methodology. So we're going to then talk about what they could do, but now I'll talk about the methodology. I really think that with this environment of ever-changing needs and fast-moving environment, you know, try something small. So doing a pilot, test it out, see how it works, and then implement it, and maybe deploy small changes at a time. It's a winning mechanism to basically cope with the speed of the market. So rather than, you know, embarking in a 2 years project and then you're going to deliver everything in 2 years from now, just do small changes and try to work on faster iteration. That's also how we work as a company. Then, I mean, on the what they should do, it's really put the consumer at the center and think about the overall experience. So before the visit, may that be in the physical store or online, during the visit, and also after the visit. Don't think only about what's happening in the checkout or what's happening on the homepage or what's happening, you know, on your storefront, but really try to plot this user journey out. And then also to be aware that it's not one size fits all, and there are many different ingredients that can make a difference. I often use the metaphor that is like, you know, a well-poured drink. You need to mix together all sorts of ingredients with the right temperature, with the right quality, and that's what's going to make a good drink out, right? So it's for sure, you know, the possibility to use flexible payment solutions, but is also how do you drive traffic to your website, is also, you know, which logistics provider do you use, because the consumers want to have it in a very friendly way. Maybe even they just want to go to a box nearby and pick it up at midnight if they want. And also having a very good customer service, because yeah, people like to chat with them, maybe on WhatsApp or on a chat, or even giving them a phone call, and they do not necessarily want to talk with a robot. So all of these ingredients here need to be basically weighted, tested to basically fine tune what is the golden consumer experience for that brand, and can be different from brand to brand.
Okay, so you mentioned this customer path somehow. Well, there's a question about a recent report that you published about luxury in Italy. Any takeaways from this report, or like some kind of stats or data that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, there are basically two key takes, if you want. I mean, at first, and we touched a bit upon that before, and we see it not only in Italy. It's a bit of a global trend. It's really the growing importance of these new generations of consumers. Right? I mean, we talked a bit about it. We talked about 50% by 2025. I mean, that's a fact. So you need to basically deal with it. Then when you actually understand their behavior a bit better, you basically see two things. The first one is that they are the ones behind, you know, a growth in their expenses. So they are driving the growth, and they are driving an increase in expense. And the second one is that the younger you get and the more you scale down, if you want, in the generation cohort, the more you are sensible and influenced by social media. So then brands really need to work on these two ingredients because that could really make a difference for them.
Thank you, Francesco, for joining us. It was really a pleasure to talk to you and hear your insights. Thank you also to our audience. We hope that you found this session insightful. That marks our last session of the Performance Summit. We hope you learned, enjoyed, and got inspired, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.